Hi, boys and girls. We're going to be reading chapter 12 of Black Beauty. So you should already have watched chapter 11. It's 2 chapters today to go through. And we are going to find out a little about an animal's natural instincts. So in the chapter today, we'll see how some animals are born with this instinct to be able to understand situations that even humans can't. And it's just natural in them. So I'm going to present my screen for you to follow along. Okay. Oh, sorry, wrong section. Oh, actually, just a moment. A helpful little tool to make it a little easier to read on us. Now, one day late in the autumn, my master had a long journey to go on business. I was put into the dog cart, which is kind of a funny term, but it's a cart that had a special place for a dog to go, like especially if they're going out hunting and they have a dog with them. And John went with his master. I always liked to go in the dog cart. It was so light and the high wheels ran along so pleasantly. There had been a great deal of rain, and now the wind was very high and blew the dry leaves across the road in a shower. We went along merrily till we came to the toll bar. You know what a toll is at a road? You've ever driven in certain parts of the country where you have to stop and pay to be able to continue on at that road? That's a toll road. So that's basically what it's talking about here, which also we saw with the world rivers, that river in Germany, people had to pay tolls as they were passing by the castle. We went along merrily till we came to the toll bar in the low wooden bridge. The river banks were rather high, and the bridge, instead of rising, went across just level, so that in the middle, if the river was full, the water would be nearly up to the woodwork and planks. But as there were good substantial rails on each side, people did not mind it. The man at the gate said the river was rising fast, and he feared it would be a bad night. Many of the meadows were under water, and in one low part of the road, the water was halfway up to my knees. The bottom was good, and my master drove gently, so it was no matter. When we got to the town, of course, I had a good bait, but as the master's business engaged him a long time, we did not start home till rather late in the afternoon. So the wind was then much higher, and I heard the master say to John that he had never been out in such a storm. And so I thought, as we went along the skirts of a wood, where the great branches were swaying about like twigs, and the rushing sound was terrible. I wish we were well out of this wood, said my master. Yes, sir, said John. It would be rather awkward if one of these branches came down upon us. The words were scarcely out of his mouth when there was a groan and a crack and a splitting sound, and tearing, crashing down among the other trees came an oak torn up by the roots, and it fell right across the road just before us. I will never say I was not frightened, for I was. It's a spelling word for us. I stopped still, and I believe that I trembled. Of course, I did not turn round or run away. I was not brought up to do that. John jumped out and was in a moment at my head. That was a very near touch, said my master. What's to be done now? Well, sir, we can't drive over that tree, nor yet get around it. There will be nothing for it but to go back to the 4 crossways, and that will be a good 6 miles before we get round to the wooden bridge again. It will make us late, but the horse is fresh. We're going to go back over to that little wooden bridge because this way is blocked. So back we went and round by the crossroads, but by the time we got to the bridge, it was very nearly dark. We could just see that the water was over the middle of it, but as that happened sometimes when the floods were out, Master did not stop. Doesn't seem like a big deal because earlier, the water was over the bridge a little bit and they could still walk through and it was okay. We were going along at a good pace, but the moment my feet touched the first part of the bridge, so he's just at the beginning of the bridge, doesn't see what's past him, I felt sure that something was wrong. I dare not go forward, and I made a dead stop. It's So Black Beauty is refusing to go on this bridge because he has a feeling it's dangerous. Go on, Beauty, said my master, and he gave me a touch with the whip. But I dare not stir. He gave me a sharp cut. I jumped, but I dare not go forward. So even as Squire Gordon is whipping him to say, go on, Black Beauty is refusing because he can tell it is very dangerous. There's something wrong, sir, said John this time, and he sprang out of the dog cart and came to my head and looked all about. He tried to lead me forward. Come on, Beauty, what's the matter? Of course, I could not tell him, Black Beauty can't speak, but I knew very well that the bridge was not safe. Just then, the man at the toll gate on the other side ran out of the house, tossing a torch about like one mad. Oi, 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 hello, stop! He cried. What's the matter? Shouted my master. The bridge is broken in the middle, and part of it is carried away altogether. If you come on, you'll be into the river. Thank God, said my master. You beauty, said John, and took the bridle and gently turned me round to the right-hand road by the riverside. The sun had set some time. The wind seemed to have lulled off after that furious blast which tore up the tree. It grew darker and darker, stiller and stiller. I trotted quietly along, the wheels hardly making a sound on the soft road. For a good while, neither Master nor John spoke, and then Master began in a serious voice. I could not understand much of what they said, but I found they thought, if I'd gone as the Master wanted, most likely the bridge would have given way under us, and horse, chaise, master, and man would have fallen into the river. It's very true. If he had moved on forward, they all would have gone into the river, and possibly some or all of them would have drowned. We've heard stories about that happening. And as the current was flowing very strongly, and there was no light and no help at hand, it was more than likely we should all have been drowned. Master said, God has given men reason, by which they could find out things for themselves. But he has given animals knowledge which did not depend on reason, and which was much more prompt and perfect in its way, and by which they had often saved the lives of men. It's a really good line. That's in your notes to take for the week. So we as humans have brains to be able to reason through, and we can have a conversation with someone, like Squire Gordon and John ended up doing. They heard, oh, the bridge is broken, so we shouldn't do that. Our brains are able to have that type of communication, and we can reason out with our information that's in front of us. Now, animals are intelligent, but in a different way. And this shows that God has created animals in a way that they are able to reason in a way that just isn't using their brain, it's using just their instinct, like they know with their body that something's wrong, as Black Beauty did. Black Beauty understood I shouldn't move forward. And it was like his body was telling him to stop. So it's amazing that animals have that ability. For those of you in reading groups who've been reading the sea turtle book, we hear about with instinct that like a mother sea turtle, the mother sea turtle goes back to the same beach that she originally was from, and that's instinct. Nothing is telling her to go back to that spot, but she just knows that that is where she needs to go and lay her eggs. And then once those sea turtle eggs hatch, they know to go to the sea by following the moonlight against the water, and they can just go right there, and it's instinct in them, even as babies, that they know that that's what they should do. So that's animals' instinct. And by which they'd often saved the lives of men. Now, John had many stories to tell of dogs and horses and the wonderful things they have done. He thought people did not value their animals half enough, nor make friends of them as they ought to do. I am sure he makes friends of them if ever a man did. At last we came to the park gates and found the gardener looking out for us. He said that mistress had been in a dreadful way ever since dark, fearing some accident had happened, that she'd sent James off on Justice, the roan cob, toward the wooden bridge to make inquiry after us. We saw a light at the hall door and at the upper windows, and as we came up, mistress ran out saying, "Are you really safe, my dear? Oh, I've been so anxious. fancying all sorts of things. Have you had no accident? No, my dear, but if your Black Beauty had not been wiser than we were, we should all have been carried down the river at the wooden bridge. I heard no more as they went into the house, and John took me to the stable. Oh, but what a good supper he gave me that night. It was a good bran mash and some crushed beans with my oats, and such a thick bed of straw, and I was glad for it, for I was tired. So they must be very, very grateful to Black Beauty. They gave him a nice supper, and that was the best treat they could give him. Okay, that is the end of chapter 12. It's really fun to have a connection between what we're learning about in science, that animals have this instinct in them that we are seeing even Black Beauty describe. He doesn't know why, but he has to stop. His instinct tells him that. Okay, that is all for today. Please make sure that you're taking the notes over it each day, and I will see you later. Bye.